Hey everyone, great to be back with you all again. Now that you've all had some time to stew over my video on the original Metroid, I'm here again to review the sequel, Metroid II: Return of Samus. Coming out about 5 years after the original, and for a handheld system, you could bet things would be different this time around. But was it better? And how does it hold up today? Let's suit up again, and see just how well Metroid II: Return of Samus for the Game Boy holds up today. Developed by Nintendo Research and Development No. 1, published by Nintendo, and released in November of 1991 for the Game Boy in the US, January of 1992 for Japan, and May of 1992 for Europe, Metroid II: Return of Samus is a 2D platformer sequel to the original Metroid, continuing the story of intergalactic bounty hunter Samus Aran, as well as the game's focus on exploration to progress forward. After Samus defeated Mother Brain and managed to stop the space pirates from utilizing the Metroid samples for their own game, the Galactic Federation would proceed to send out teams to the Metroid's home planet of SR-388 to eliminate them completely and ensure that no one could ever utilize their abilities for destruction again. The teams soon vanish after being sent in, and Samus is called in to finish the mission once and for all. Just like the original, Samus can move right and left, shoot, and perform floaty jumps to get to where she needs to. But there are some key differences that separate it from the original NES game. For one, Samus begins the game with much better range, eliminating that initial hurdle that would throw off many new players in the original. The jump controls are also much improved, allowing Samus to jump in virtually any direction you point her in, whether it's to jump up and then move a little to the left or right, or to perform a somersault. The final basic change, but probably one of the biggest, is Samus's ability to crouch, finally allowing her the ability to blast those little enemies that crawl along the floors and walls. Combined, these basic improvements make a world of difference for the gameplay style. The basic idea of the game, i.e. Samus exploring multiple places, fighting enemies, powering up, and unlocking new areas, is still generally the same, but there are a few differences to this model. The first is that you'll notice a little counter in the bottom right corner with a small Metroid image next to it. This displays the number of Metroids remaining for Samus to hunt down. The deeper into the planet you get, the more fierce they start to become, with the strongest types near the bottom. The initial path is blocked by some type of liquid that can hurt Samus, but as you defeat more Metroids, it will cause earthquakes to occur, draining some of the water, and allowing Samus to go down more pathways to continue her mission. This dynamic actually helps the game maintain more of a linear nature compared to the first. But the biggest change of all comes in the fact that the game now has a proper save point system, giving you the ability to save your game in exact spots. The first game would have greatly benefited from these changes, and it's wonderful to see here. I'm also happy to say that the feeling of isolation that the original was known for does continue here, even if the approach feels slightly different in its tone. And just like the original, the music contributes to this nicely, with all kinds of ambient sounds and off-putting cues to make you feel as stranded as you did first go around. The changes don't end there, however, as Samus also obtains new power-ups to make the experience even more creative. One major example is the Spider Ball, in which Samus now has the ability to climb up most walls and other weird pathways. Another fan favorite is the Space Jump, which, once mastered, allows Samus the ability to continuously jump as high as you can possibly go through different areas. Both of these abilities let you reach places you couldn't have dreamed of reaching in the original, and they are both very satisfying to use. Also making its return is the Varia suit, which essentially cuts all damage taken by half and increases your running speed. But there's one major difference this time around: the suit's appearance. Unlike the NES Metroid, the Game Boy game had no color in it, not including the way the game looks when played on a Game Boy Color. So the developers had to think of a way to make Samus's look more distinguished from the regular suit. And so, the more iconic Varia suit design was born, with Samus now having circular pauldrons and bulkier armor all around. It's amazing to think about how working around a single technical limitation like this could result in something so important for the series going forward. Promising stuff? Definitely. But that doesn't mean it's all perfect here either. One major difference between this entry and the original is the way that Samus is zoomed in on your screen. While it doesn't make the game unplayable, it does add some unnecessary difficulty in that you can barely see what's coming at you off screen until it's too late. It's not so bad for regular enemies, but to get surprised by a Metroid in this manner can definitely throw you off, as it did for me multiple times over. And the more glaring issue, and the biggest reason that people requested this title get a proper remake, is the continued lack of map or mini-map to help you track your progress. While it's true that the draining water does indeed help make the game far more linear than the original, it still requires you to remember multiple areas by heart, or draw them on pen and paper like the old days, which were not actually old at the time, to help you navigate this new labyrinth. Finding the Varia suit for the first time is also extremely difficult for this reason. It's still relatively easy to get lost or have no idea where to find the next Metroids to progress. Despite all this, there is no denying this game's ambition, as it managed to craft some truly large and interesting environments, with underground temples and laboratories on top of the caverns that make up most of the main environment. I'd go as far as to say I even had more fun exploring in this title than the first game, as the crouch, spider ball, space jump, and save points made the experience feel much less tedious. Even after getting lost, I'd still have fun scoping out new areas to see if a power-up was hiding out somewhere nearby. The final confrontation with Mother Brain in the original is still an iconic moment in the eyes of Metroid fans, but many would agree that it's the ending to the second game that would go on to truly dictate the direction this series would take from here on out. While this is technically a spoiler for the game's final moments, keep in mind that a lot of this is also revealed in the intro to Super Metroid, if you've already played that before. After exploring the last area, you're dropped into a final confrontation with the Metroid Queen, the only being capable of laying Metroid eggs and creating more of them. After filling them up with a ton of missiles, and occasionally bombs if you time it just right, the Queen is defeated and all Metroid life has been wiped from the galaxy. Or has it? On the way back to her ship, Samus encounters a Metroid egg that proceeds to hatch in front of her. The Metroid hatchling imprints itself onto her, signifying that it believes Samus to be its mother. Samus appears to take pity on the hatchling, and decides to take it back with her instead. After the hatchling helps clear a path and Samus returns to her ship, Samus takes the Metroid with her, and blasts off of SR-388 for good. There's no doubt about it, the ending to this game became one of the most significant moments in the entire history of the series. The ramifications of Samus's actions here laid down the foundation for Super Metroid to exist, as well as the other mainline entries like Metroid Fusion, and more recently, Metroid Dread. While I won't go into the specifics of how that happens here, you can certainly look forward to videos on the following games, where I will happily talk about each title's story, and the connections that made it all possible. Just like the original, the completion time and amount of items gained will determine which ending screen you get, with the lowest including Samus in her full armor, and the highest showcasing her without any armor, and allowing you to see what she actually looks like under the suit. So the questions to delve into now are A, is this game better than the original Metroid? And B, would I be able to recommend this one to everyone? Well, that first question is certainly going to be debatable, but I honestly believe this to be a much better and more functional game to play overall. The improvements were numerous. Far more linear environments, a functional save system, smoother movement, crouching, abilities that made exploring feel much more fun and less tedious, and many other little touches to bring it all together. But there are still some issues that prevent it from being fully recommendable. For one, the view is very zoomed in, to the point where the game's difficulty is slightly increased due to enemies appearing right in your face, with little time to react, especially if that enemy is one of the Metroid boss fights, as I said. This would come to be an issue with many handheld games from Game Boy to Game Gear and beyond, but that doesn't make it any less cumbersome here. The next issue is, still, the lack of a map or mini-map to go by, as this feature would not be introduced until Super Metroid, leaving players to once again make their own charts, or try to keep a really good memory of the environments. But even though said environments are more linear this time around, it is still fairly easy to get lost and wander around for long periods of time with no clue on where to head next. Comparing this to the NES original, there is no doubt that the more zoomed out view of Samus looks better than the way it's presented in this handheld sequel. I would also say the music in the first game is much better, and includes a better variety of songs or sounds. While the music in 2 is not bad, and I'd argue the planet surface theme is one of my top 5 in the whole series, there are less tracks overall, and repetition will begin to kick in much sooner as a result of that. Despite these issues, even including the zoomed-in problem, I still found this to be a much more enjoyable experience overall, even if there aren't as many iconic moments or specific boss characters aside from the Metroid evolutions. The quality of life changes really made all the difference in bringing this entry into a more functional one. While I still can't recommend it to as many newcomers due to the lack of a map and the zooming in, I can at least say there was a definite improvement between this and the original, and it was a much better experience for me as a result. If the first left you feeling confused, this one just might draw you in a little more. And if not, well, there was the next game. And that's going to do it for this video. Thank you all so much for watching. Have you played this game before yourself? Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. And if you're feeling generous, please consider supporting my Patreon, where awesome people like Brandon, CLO, and Jedi Dude all help to keep this channel going. You may have forgotten I already made a video on Super Metroid before making these last two, because let's face it, it deserved one. But where to go from here? Perhaps we could do Fusion? Or Zero Mission? The possibilities are endless. Until next time, my friends.